Welcome all. We're going to call to order the agenda for the Historic Preservation Commission, Monday, September the 12th. Is there a move to approve the agenda?
I move. Second.
Moved and seconded. Okay, approval of the minutes. Item 3, approval of the minutes of August 8th. Has everyone had a chance to look those over? And any comments? No? Do we have a motion to approve?
I have.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Under the CLG grant update, just before just add the words information for the before historic context.
Oh,
I think it was left out. That's it.
okay. So is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
Also move.
Okay,
Second.
All right. Doing pretty good. That's item 4. This is our opportunity for a public forum. This time is set aside for public comments on topics that would be of concern to the Historic Preservation Commission, other than those that we may have on the agenda. The chairperson may limit each speaker to 5 minutes. Please understand the commission is not likely to take any actions on the comments at this meeting due to requirements of the open meetings law, but may do so at future meetings. So we have a guest. Care to make a comment? No, nothing, just visiting. All right, no public comments, so we'll move to item number 5. Review of Chapter 31. And Angie, I think you have had some comments you'd like to bring forward.
Yeah, thanks, Susan. I just want to make a real quick comment. So Eloise had forwarded us some information about the time when Chapter 31 was previously being reworked and reworded. And a lot of the conversation at that time, there was a lot of work done, and some of the work items were excluded. And some of those same items seem to overlap with what we're doing. And I think tonight's section, definitions, is a great example of that. So, for example, in 2011 and 14, the need to develop and clarify some definitions on contributing and compatible were made. And then another piece of information that I think we received today was from the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions, their newsletter, and they talk about how important definitions are. I'm reading here. This is probably the most important part of the ordinance, and this section should never be underestimated. So I thought it was important for my understanding is kind of teeing off the discussion of what could otherwise be a little dry in definitions with maybe a big picture of why this is important. We talked about previously how this part of the ordinance kind of sets the stage for a lot of what's inside of it. And we need to understand for clarity what we mean. And there's a lot of different data sources between this code, other city codes like Chapter 29, and then the historic preservation world of nomenclatures. And so I think a lot of the work that, Mary Jo and Susan, you guys have put forth is to try to, make some proposed modifications that make sense. So we're all speaking the same language. I just
Good
wanted
comments.
to say thank you.
Well, thank you. But good comments. I think that's what I think we're all kind of struggling with. Other comments that others have about how some of the definitions are confusing? Are we getting closer to something that you feel we can wrap our arms around? I mean, right now we're just at a phase where we are providing recommendations. This is drafting recommendations. Nothing is going to be approved. We're just going to make suggestions to staff to take to council. And so, Edie, you've been at this for a long time. I know I'm not to be drawing people into stuff, but I didn't know if, the language of historic preservation, sometimes we use terminology that we're familiar with, but might not be what you'd find in municipal code, I think, even though we're in a historic preservation chapter. So, I think that's something that Mary Jo and I have struggled with is, in our minds, certain words or certain definitions have a different picture maybe than what chapter 29 structure definition might be when we're looking at preservation kind of stuff. So anything that I know, but it is something I want people to think about is, working in different areas.
Well, yeah, I think that the definitions definitely are important. But I do think if we proceed with going through revising the ordinance, that there may be other words we may find, so I don't see us like voting on the definitions or anything until we have a complete document. So I don't know how everybody else thinks about that, but I think what we've done so far with the definitions, and I guess not everybody's privy to what we've done. So, and I don't know if we'll put that on the agenda for next more of a discussion or not.
Well, how do people feel about this? Do you feel like you
Well, let me just
got more
add
to
something.
add to that? Okay.
I do. I was concerned about how we proceed with this because there is a definite reluctance on the staff part to do what we're doing, I believe, and I may be misinterpreting, but I think we have to decide a good way forward. So I don't, after working on it for several months, and I mean, it does have to go through the city council. And usually I understand that staff has, usually gets direction from city council to work on something. That is the normal procedure. And so I don't know if the commission is, I mean, I feel that the ordinance definitely needs a lot of work. I think there are big issues with it. But I think we need to figure out how we're going to get there. I mean, we can keep working on the wording and get it all down pat and everything, but we've still got to get it through the process. And I think I think the commission's plan is for the commission to actually do the work on the rewording and everything, going through and doing whatever. And of course, we definitely need staff along the way, but as far as the staff taking on that much time without any approval from council to go ahead with that, I'm just a little concerned and confused about how we're gonna get there and what our procedure should be. So,
Is our current trajectory in your mind, or whatever we're on so far, to do all these changes and then submit one final revised complete document? Like to the point where council
well,
votes on
yeah,
it?
with a lot of discussion. I mean,
Mhm.
I think at some point the city attorney's probably going to have to get involved. I don't know. Well, that's why I went to the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions and pulled this up. It cites the work I actually did in Pasadena on the ordinance, so I've got a pretty good background on it. The firm that actually wrote the guidelines for the State Historic Preservation Office, they were a land use firm as well as historic preservation. So they gave, they were really good to get started on it. But I basically did the whole thing. So beyond that. So, I mean, I feel like I have the ability to get it fixed and get it where it works better and where staff will be happy with it and the city council will be happy with it. But I don't know that because every place is different. So, but I did download the guidelines, and it's like an 80-page document, but and it is for establishing a new ordinance or revising either one. So we would have, if we decided to use that document as a guide, we would just apply what works for us, of course. So, anyway, that's,
Other,
I don't know what to do. I'm sort of confused.
other comments?
Well,
Rosemary?
I don't mean to speak out of turn because it's sort of quoting someone else. And I'm not putting this out as an opinion, except I remember hearing, just to throw it out there for information, I remember looking just before I got on the commission, I remember watching a council meeting. And I did hear them say very clearly that they don't think 2015 is very old. And they were not particularly interested in, one particular council member said quite clearly she was not interested in proceeding. I'm just putting that out there as part of the discussion, not necessarily to argue
Mhm.
one way or the other.
No, that's part of what I'm trying to figure out is whether,
Other comments? Anything?
Yeah, I
And-
think I have one.
Sure.
Maybe to your point is, I think we need to have a strong answer for each proposed change of why. Like,
Mhm.
what problem are we trying to solve that warrants the work and the effort?
Exactly.
And I think we have those answers for the work and the series that we've gone through. As long as we continue to have good answers, then I think it's work that's worthwhile. Now, to your point of, what should we do right now? I don't know. We need Ray and Eloise input. But, we talked about doing this whole document and then presenting it, but maybe there is an argument for a midpoint presentation now
Yeah.
to say, here's kind of a piece of what we've done, move forward or pause.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can give valid reasons for everything that Ted and I both pretty much commented, on our own documents, what we thought would be improvements. And I think that it was a very preliminary look at it too. So I don't know. I'm not sure if we decided to follow those guidelines. I know there was another state that had done a guideline too. I saw on the websites or on Google. So I'm not saying we should use one in California, but I do think it is really important to get something that works for the city of Ames and not what works somewhere else. So,
Okay.
I
think
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
No, you
No,
go ahead.
go ahead.
I have a question. If chapter 31 is reworded, does it matter if it may or may not flow in with all the rest of the city ordinance, which presumably at one point the whole document was unified to some extent. So perhaps the language of a new chapter 31 won't mesh. So is that just another consideration?
yeah, that's a good one.
Better to wait, not better because that's putting in judgment, or I don't know how often they redo the whole municipal code, but so
So I think I'll close the comments at this point. I could do a quick little summary thing, but I do want to hear from staff. or, and Eloise, I know you provided some very good background of the prior modifications that were done to Chapter 31. And as over the course of time, and I think some of them were predicated on certain events occurring or things that would cause people to look at the ordinance maybe in a different light and say, maybe we need to tweak this a little bit to make it a little more appropriate. But, and I think we're kind of at that point ourselves right now as we're doing this survey and looking at a potential new historic district. We're seeing some edges that don't quite fit, with what we're anticipating. And so I would like to continue the examination of definitions, and maybe if that, I don't know that the rest of the commission has seen some of the back and forth that you provided some research on ordinances in Iowa, the state of Iowa. So I don't know that they've had the benefit to look at that, and that maybe we need to collate all those pieces so that everyone can have a look, and we could kind of bring everybody forward. There's usually, of all the definitions, there seems to be a half a dozen that are key words that are kind of sticking points, or ones that either we want an expanded definition or maybe a little more related to historic resource type flavor. So Eloise, what do you think? Do we add more information to the commission, or?
Well, I think Angie mentioned something that is also seems to, sorry, Laura, this is bad for minutes.
Yeah.
So what sometimes when we're moving forward with reviewing some of these elements, it's not clear why the comments are there, or perhaps from your side, it's not clear what the importance of that section is and how it's utilized.
Right.
So I think probably the subcommittee has a pretty good understanding of those things because you've been so involved, but it just feels like in dialoguing as a commission about these things, it's just not always like it's like you're trying to wordsmith without understanding where you're trying to go.
Mm-hmm.
Like what is the vision you have for this, and what is it that's not working with the current ordinance?
Okay.
What are those things that you're trying to get at? And so I feel like maybe like with this document here, I think it kind of helps to give guidance to some of those things,
The
like
ordinance article.
like what is the purpose, and so what are some questions that you might ask, and are there holes in what the purpose, as it's stated, is are there things that it's not stating that you think it should add? Is it saying some stuff that you don't agree with that needs to be deleted? So that larger picture kind of thing seems important to me. So deleting or wordsmithing or adding, and in the same with the definitions, it feels a little bit out of context or out of a grounding of where we trying to go.
Mhm.
Now, I do think this is a really excellent tool to help that guidance and ask some of those questions. Now, perhaps on the subcommittee have that in your mind already, where you're trying to go. But it doesn't feel evident to me. And I don't know how the other members feel. But it just feels like we're talking about these things almost like a Band-Aid approach. And maybe that was because of some of staff's comments early on. But so one comment I would have is that with the usability, to say something isn't particularly usable, there's many ways to slice the pie to make it more usable. You could have brochures. You could have separate documents that explain things for a resident. You know, those things would make it usable. But it doesn't feel like that's the direction by wanting to rewrite the code. That's not the direction that we're currently going. So when you say you want it to be more usable, what are you meaning by that? So secondly, the only local district we have is Old Town.
Right.
And then we have some local landmarks, but we don't ever seem to have those properties come before you for a COA. So the way that Old Town was established is reflected in Chapter 31. But if you don't like some of what's in 31, maybe what you're not liking is how Old Town was established. And that probably is a whole different, can of worms or whatever,
Yeah.
to have to address. And so I think Ray can probably speak to some of that better than I can, for sure. Those are just
Sure.
my thoughts.
That helps. Ray, do you want to add into the discussion?
Well, I think I agree with everything Eloise was just saying. But it is a little bit challenging for staff at times to make sure we understand where the commission wants to go with it. What it is you're trying to accomplish. Overall, so that all these various parts we're talking about in more detail will fit into that vision. We want to understand where you want to go with it and help you get there.
Okay, sounds good. I think relative to the comments, Rosemary, that you had heard, I'd heard those too, that perhaps there's not an interest at the council level, maybe for looking at a revamp Chapter 31. But they also aren't dealing with kind of like the ground floor stuff, like we're dealing with this survey and some other things that we're trying to maybe expand the view of what we see Chapter 31 could be a more umbrella than what it is right now. And so I appreciate that. I know in some of the things that Eloise provided to us, when it's one of the tasks of the commission to look at Chapter 31 every 4 years. So whether or not, they think that's too soon or not, here we are. But I do see it in a long-term thing. This is not something we have to get done by the end of a certain point or whatever. I think this is a review that has a long trajectory. I think we all do have maybe a bigger picture in mind, Angie, of what this means. And that's what we need to get everyone's comments on, a bigger, what does preservation in the community, and how these definitions seem to fit. And Mary Jo has had professional experience, and I think her vision is phenomenal and has been able to help provide many examples and stuff. But we need to make sure we share that vision with everyone, so that we can do that. A lot of the heavy work has been at the front of this, the definitions. What is the certificate of appropriateness? The whole process for that. I think if we kind of are zeroing in on these first front parts, as we finish up this survey, before we get to that whole thing of design criteria, which is a whole nother can of worms, we've got several things. I think the definitions need to be in place because that's going to be important when we get to design criteria and guidelines and what that might, that we all are talking the same language to each other. So maybe at our October meeting, we bring the definitions as a presentation of what we've collated so far, be able to have this to you all prior to the meeting, so you have a chance to digest it. And then maybe also think about big picture as well. Again, I think because we were working on that intensive survey, Mary Jo more so than I am, but I do feel like I've been drawn into a larger historic history of Ames thing that I've really enjoyed. But it's also, how is this going to be advanced maybe in our preservation tools and stuff like that. So I'd like to recommend, maybe someone can make a motion about, how we may proceed right now is maybe to look at the definitions in October as we pull it all together and bring it to you all as a presentation from the subcommittee. But does that sound like a reasonable thing?
I have another idea.
Please jump in. You're part
I
of this.
I've not seen the 80-some page guidelines, but I would like to review that and see if that's going to be useful as an outline for us to go forward.
The guidelines that mentioned in the,
Yeah. I mean, the ordinance in Pasadena, I worked on it probably 6 years is what it took me to get it through, to get everything done, because there was a reluctant staff and a reluctant council. And it's dicey. It's like dancing on eggshells. So there's,
we've
mean,
got 2 tracks projects going on right now.
Right.
This long review plus on a shorter track, we have as we'll get to the survey. We hope to do a community presentation next week. So are you thinking November-ish? Would
no,
that give you
I'm
enough time to
I'm-
read through?
thinking that maybe for next meeting, I can present an outline of what we can do to move forward on it. I'm thinking that even public meetings might be a good idea, at least to have people in Old Town, especially comment on, get comments on how the ordinance affects them now and see what they have to say about it.
Well, do you want to make a motion then about what you'd like
Well,
to?
I can just do it. I mean, I don't.
Okay. Do we need a motion then, if she
I
wants
don't
to
think
just do a subcommittee presentation? I don't think so.
So it's still on the same topic.
It's
It's
on the
chapter
same time.
31, so we don't have to make a motion to put it on the agenda because it's on the agenda. So it would be just part of that.
Okay, so in
That's
summary,
how-
you would be doing a presentation.
On methodology on doing the ordinance revisions.
Okay,
And I think I can do that.
and that will fall under our chapter 31 study. But in the meantime, keep thinking of what a big picture means.
Mhm.
I know that as we've gone through this, I've had to make little notes to myself of what I'm thinking of, and I'm looking ahead of stuff that may not be here now, like when if we have another historic district and stuff like that. So anyway, all right.
Yeah.
Sounds good, everyone?
Yeah, I mean, I want to be able to work with staff and I want it to go well. I mean, I'm not, I just thinking about starting this, I think I assumed, I don't know. I just assumed things that weren't possible. So every place is different. So
That's right. That's
anyway,
right.
but I think we need to just step back and kind of figure out where we want to go.
We also have an opportunity through the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions, is they have board education um, um, workshops too, that we might want to look at. If that might be something that would coordinate what you're thinking. So I'd like for everyone to think of the review of Chapter 31 as a long trajectory. It's better to understand what we're putting forth than just get something to throw in front of council and make it look like a bunch of wordsmithing. You know, that's not what we
Mm-mm.
are about.
No,
So,
definitely. That's not where I was going with it.
okay.
Um,
Well, if no further comment, I'll move on to item number 6, which is community education topics. And we touched on this when we were looking at the work plan going through. And one of our things is, doing education. We kind of touched on the fact that we try to do something during the year, but even if we can't get something in now, we could always do it the first part of next year. It's just a matter of, is there something that people feel that would be a good topic, right, Ray? Or
Right, yeah.
along those lines that for public education?
Yep. Yes. Public education or training.
Training? That's
For the
another good-
commission.
Yeah.
But, yeah, either one or,
So has everybody had a chance to percolate on that one? Jump at once. Yeah.
What are some examples of what has been done in the past?
Well, last year, Ted felt that they would be very beneficial because he had a background in understanding the tax credits. And so he, because of his volunteer position with the State Historic Society, had some contacts and knew of people that could come down to Ames. And they did a great workshop on Main Street for the downtown owners, that tax credit kinds of information, and did a tour and stuff. I think it was well received. I think it was filmed even.
Mhm.
So it was. So that's the one that comes to mind right now. I don't know, staff. Is there another thing that people have done fairly recent that? So we wouldn't be. Are you thinking not duplicating something that people say, "Oh, we've done that"?
I'm just curious.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think there has been anything big.
not so recently. The one last year is the most recent.
Most recent and probably was the biggest. And of course, we had kind of the lull there with the COVID stuff. So that kind of put a gap between things. So probably anything would be a welcome refresh. One of the things, we haven't gotten to it, but in our next item is we are going to do a public presentation of the intensive survey that's
Right,
going
right.
on. And there may be a little bit of education, public education that goes along with that.
Right?
I had an idea, but I don't mean this to reflect any sort of bias on where I live. But if part of the goal of the public workshop is to drum up a public interest in historic preservation and and an understanding, and thereby maybe a commitment to it in the community, I had wondered, I don't think this would exactly cross with last year's. I'm not sure what the museum has done exactly, but if we suggested, for instance, with Alex at the museum to present on the history of some of the Main Street buildings and businesses. I mean, the plaques are absolutely wonderful and I reread them all the time. But, people have different learning methods and different ways to take in information, and many people won't look at those plaques. So I'm wondering if sort of an emphasis on fun and interest. And what I love about those plaques is they're a mixture of the architectural comments about the building and some social history.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if something like that would be of interest to the community.
That would be interesting. Have you ever done a walking tour of Main Street? You know, where you go, I mean, like you said, you go down, you see the plaques and you stop and you look and stuff like that. Have they ever done a walking tour, you think, of Main Street?
I think there's a brochure that's a walking tour
There
of
was- I know they did
downtown,
one-
and then I think there's one of Old Town.
There's
as
one
well.
of Old Town.
Yeah.
I know there's one
But,
of Old Town.
You know, having a live event with
Yeah.
somebody speaking to those elements could be very interesting.
It would be kind of neat if we had like old photographs in the building, you know, in their windows, you know, or something, you know, work with the property owners, have something to have the photographs and stuff, and then work in conjunction with the Ames History Museum. And while it's really a nice, you know, fall afternoon or whatever, you know, you could walk down, you could see the pictures, and then have somebody would say, you know, who could add to it, like some little snippet of history, and you know, explain what's in the picture, or who the people, you know, were who had the businesses or something like that.
And if we worked with Downtown Ames, that's another
That's
piece
another.
of collaboration going on, and they would be able to then draw in the interest of the businesses. And I would think that for the business owners, just, you know, the more people, footsteps
Don't you know?
we
Right.
have on Main Street, the better.
They could do like the art walk or whatever with the cookies and punch like they had.
Or even better, the mulled wine, or
Or even better.
what's it, the wassail stuff.
Well, how does this have an interest, do you think, of any members? Or, well, Rosemary, would you be interested in maybe investigating a little bit if we had some other people working with you?
Yes.
Okay, that one might be, because you also go to the downtown chamber meetings as well, right? Or what is it?
No, I went to that one.
Okay.
We went to the big ideas. I don't normally go to them.
No,
I know
normally.
a couple of people that are on the
But those would be people who
Downtown
might be
board.
interested in also. So, any other volunteers maybe to work with Rosemary as part of a check it out? Or
oh,
Edie,
wonderful.
that would be
Mhm.
great.
I only done with my graduate degree, so I have time.
You are open.
You like walking around, right?
Breathing, yeah.
You are definitely open, and you know a lot of history
Mhm.
things. So this would be a good,
hmm
and maybe some of the people who have some of the shops and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
that would be a good partnership. So.
But you said a full day. I mean, we're already almost.
Well,
just
and that's
about
what we
in fall.
did.
That's pretty short notice.
know,
I would
that was
think,
me
wouldn't you?
That was
Springtime.
me talking, you know,
Yeah.
imagining
This
people
spring.
walking down the sidewalk. We could do that anytime as long as it's decent. So the date would be open right now. It's just, you know, organizing the parts. And who knows, this might be something that might not happen until spring, you know, if
Mhm.
we have people doing pictures and talking.
Yeah, because I'm not doing it in February. Sorry.
No way. So,
And we, you know, the downtown organization say, well, we've got our own things going. We're not so interested in that. Or the museum may say the same thing. They
Right,
have
right,
their
right.
summer lecture series, and you know, I doubt we could pull it together
well, maybe
before the
Right,
spring. I
right.
would say.
if you two would maybe have a meeting with each other, we'll have a subcommittee exploring maybe a walking tour of the Main Street that would be coordinated with the Ames History Museum folks and maybe the Main Street business owners as well. And let me know what you find out as well as city staff, and I may sit in just to hear what some ideas are. So.
Sure.
That would be great. Okay.
Were we, somebody mentioned a few meetings ago, the Ames History Museum and their property next door?
Yes.
Do we know anything more about
I
that?
don't know. Do you guys know anything about the
About the Pantorium? Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
Thought
expanding
something about
into
a behind the
it.
scenes tour or something?
They did that at one point. I don't know if they
Okay.
were going to do it. They did it in the spring. They had a tour or kind of like a preliminary thing.
Mhm.
They may have something else we could probably find out about, but it's quite exciting. They've got big plans. So,
I think during I think think Music Walk, yes, I think during Music Walk, Art Walk, I forget, they had I believe they also had an open house then.
Oh,
That's
to
okay.
go in.
Okay.
So maybe we can find out when the next open house is. That would be a good
Mhm.
field trip, actually.
I mean, there may be something already established that we could.
Tack our names on.
Exactly.
Wow, coordinate with.
No, that's the off the minute suggestion. But there might already be something that we
Right.
could then connect with as part of it or something.
Always a good idea to have somebody else have something built in.
Because I'm just thinking when you go to busy people and they say, "Oh, not another thing."
Yeah, no. If
So
there's
maybe it's
something,
what's the value? What's that term that I never quite
Value added or
understand?
what?
Value add. Yeah, I never quite understand it, but it sounds impressive. So.
no, that would be good. Any further ideas on education topics, or would we be interested in maybe also any board education at any point? You know,
I have a question. So
Sure.
what's your plan for presenting your Ridgewood Chautauqua survey results?
that is coming up in our next item. Are
Oh,
you ready
perfect.
for that?
Okay, not yet. But that is going to have a lot of really cool history too.
Oh yeah.
People want to hear.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's been fun. It really has. But
Yeah, I
busy.
want to hear about that. I have a couple other ideas.
Sure.
A lot of this we've already talked about in previous meetings. I just jotted down a
Sure.
list. The tax credit as it's applicable to residences. So it's
That's
getting the
true.
state credit and
We should
not
find somebody
state
who
plus
has
federal.
a good example of
Yeah.
how they did their work and how that happened. They could present before and after and how they.
Case study.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking maybe somebody from Des Moines could come and really talk about the review process, but somewhere
Yeah.
in that neighborhood would be potentially interesting. I think I think a lot of people just don't know about the program. So if
I
we
think
can
you're right
continue to
about
get that
that.
out there.
And I think that's something that we're thinking about when we're going to be inviting people who have a potential for another historic district. This would be something that they most definitely would be interested in, I think, and what that might mean for them.
I'm sure that shortly after I started on the commission, we had somebody from the state come. And we kind of broadcast that through Old Town. And we had a few people who came, and the person from the state kind of went through, the various.
You know,
programs.
Angie, could you and Edie talk about that? You know, can you kind of talk about what they
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I'll take that one. I'll take the follow up on
Okay,
that one.
follow up on that one, then kind of bring that back to us then, what you find, it might be a good thing.
Got it. Okay. Next item, maybe bringing someone in here from the Climate Action Plan, specifically towards what kind of building materials should we be
Looking at,
looking at as historic materials that, advance that green footprint.
you know, I think that would be something that staff, can you make a recommendation about how that might be approached? If, somebody who's working on the climate plan, do they have a active committee?
I think a good person to talk to is Deb in the city manager's office. So maybe Angie or someone from the commission can just ask her about that. Right?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I think that'd be.
Be the person to follow up on, and have them come to just check availability and just have them come to us.
Okay.
For starters, and
Yeah, I don't mind. I can take that one too. That's easy. And then a couple that I thought would be potentially interesting from a repair standpoint, window repair. I believe you had a gentleman present on that a couple of years ago. It's on the commission website. It was a really fascinating presentation. He sat right out there with some windows and talked about our value of windows. I loved that video.
I hadn't seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Windows are such a big topic. Everyone just assumes we need to replace windows with these triple glazed windows, and maybe that's true, maybe that's not.
Yeah.
Could be a big money savings if it's not. So
that might be something to check on.
yeah,
How long ago was that though?
It's quite a while ago.
Okay.
Yeah. The craftsman, he was from Decorah.
Is
Yeah,
that the
that'd
same
be
person we
really
had at the conference a couple of years back?
I think so. Yeah, yeah. Wadsworth is, can't remember for sure, but
You think would they even be around, or we'd have to come up with a new expert?
There was a person we met probably before COVID that spoke on Windows, I think, at one of the state conferences.
I think it's
And
the same
we
guy.
asked him about if he'd have interest in coming, and he sounded like he would. But
Okay.
then it didn't really go anywhere.
Well, maybe I can follow up with you guys then about,
So
Who
we
might be
could check
available.
and see what,
Yeah.
I probably have something about his
On that
name.
Saturday morning.
So, I mean, at least maybe I could find his name and
Yeah, just
inquire if
something.
he's interested at all in doing something.
see if there's, who's out there. Okay, I'll call you then, and maybe we can give me a name to follow up on. I can check with the state too. They, may have a list of resources, people who do that. So, okay. Well, it sounds like we've got some good, things to participate in, things to present,
And different angles. I
different
mean,
angles.
the windows sound wonderful for the homeowners.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's always a biggie.
Mm.
So, no more suggestions right now? Of course, we always are open for program suggestions. So if not, we'll just move on to item 7, CLG grant update. This has been busy but cool. Mary Jo, you
You want
want
me
to
to-
kind of,
Eloise, do you want to?
or
I can start, or I can.
Okay,
chime in
why don't
later.
you go ahead and
So the students are the researchers. When you say students,
I
you
know.
think of little people.
I appreciate
These
that.
are adults and very well qualified adults with master's and PhD level coursework. So very skilled and very doing excellent work. So a couple of things. We have scheduled the neighborhood information meeting. That will be Thursday, October the 6th at 6:30 at the library in the Danfoss room. I put you on the postcard mailing list. So we will need to know if more than 3 of you are interested in attending, because then we will notice it as a meeting. We're looking at a PowerPoint presentation of about maybe a half an hour or 40 minutes with time for questions and so forth, just to let them know what we learned about their neighborhood and next steps and so forth. We may not, it depends, we might just have it as an introduction with a follow-up meeting later to give even more data on next steps, depending on the response and interest from people.
Mhm.
But it's quite exciting, and the anticipated draft submittal date would be September 30th. We'll see if we can meet that target or not.
Draft to where?
Draft to the state.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the anticipated date to submit the draft intensive level survey to the state for their review and comment. And then they take a month or 2 to get responses back to us. And then we submit a final. So, so I did want to let you know about the neighborhood meeting. Can I just get an idea from you? I mean, it's not binding, but okay.
we'll all
So
wanna come.
we'll just advertise it as a meeting.
Yeah,
We're checking into that
okay.
with the city attorney's office.
Oh, okay.
You didn't know this.
I did not know this.
We're checking into this.
I mean, if we
City
wanted-
Attorney's office as to whether.
Is it going to
not
be
we have
broadcast?
to
Is it gonna be-
Advertise it.
Broadcast at all?
I
That we have
don't
the
think
option?
so.
No. Okay. All right. Well,
Well, we're checking on all of that.
Yeah, but, we do need to meet the open meetings law, but we may not need to advertise it as a public meeting, but we need to get confirmation of that from the attorney's office.
Okay.
Because if we do, it will change the format of the meeting.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. You know,
Right. So
In
if we,
what way? What
well,
does it?
we would have an agenda,
Oh, okay.
you know, like we do for regular historic preservation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
When
know-
will we know?
It could be handled. It could be handled, I think, without,
Hopefully so.
I think it could be handled in a way that it would work. I mean, I would love everybody to have an opportunity to hear the presentation. And if we needed to have it as an open meeting, so be it, But I think we could do it in a way that would not make it too stultifying, of a presentation. So, but hopefully, we'll wait to hear what you find out. And then, because I think we all would like to go. It'd be,
that's
or
why I
do-
thought if it was broadcast, some of us could go and some of us could just
Right.
watch it.
I
And
don't know. Is it gonna?
Well, we will have a PowerPoint. We will make the PowerPoint available on the
Right.
website,
Right.
but whether it's broadcast live or if, set up that way, we haven't crossed that bridge.
So that is a possibility.
yeah, that way we wouldn't have to, we could just make an agreement amongst ourselves who goes and
Right.
who
Who
just
goes,
watches
who
it.
doesn't,
I mean, if it could just be recorded and we could watch it later, I mean, I just would like to see it. I mean,
yeah, but isn't that an extra cost or whatever that we'd have to? I don't know. We'll see. Let us know what we can do.
Okay.
So
Did
Mary-
you have anything, Mary Jo,
yeah,
you want to
Mary Jo,
add?
Do you want to add to what they're finding? Like,
Not really.
well,
I think that it's going really well. And I don't know, you think that it might be a little past the 30th then? I mean, I think we'll be pretty much done on the 30th with, of course, you haven't met with them. They haven't been in this week, so, and we met with them on the site. But did either one of them work on Friday? Well, that was Friday, but that was just extra for them, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, they haven't been back in the office.
Yeah,
They'll be back tomorrow.
Okay.
That was the that was the deadline. I told them that's what we're aiming for.
okay.
Yeah, they've both pretty much said that they feel like they're on schedule and everything. So,
Yeah.
and I mean, the description part, the inventory forms are really close to being finished. I mean, Marion has all the data and on a spreadsheet that she can just insert, and she's got a good handle on the descriptions. I've met with her because there were things we were training. That was the purpose of hiring students to train them. And so I've been working with her on making sure she's able to identify parts of the building that are a little more subtle, but yet are really important to characterize it. So that was something she wasn't experienced with, but Eloise and I went into the field with her and on Friday, and she's really picked up on it really well. So anyway, I think it's going well.
And she's got some terrific maps.
Yeah, she's her
Yeah.
yeah, she's really good with
Terrific
getting the maps
so-
and getting her graphic skills are really good.
And,
So
and the stories that Nikki's been able to pull up, it's almost too much. We'll have to pair it to the Reader's Digest version. But I mean, it's exciting stuff that
mhm, yeah.
doing, pulling together for the context. But anyway, all shall be revealed.
It's getting near the end.
Yeah. So, are there any commission comments? Any business people would like to bring to the table? Nothing? Coming up? All right. Item 9, staff comments. Are there things we should be aware of that we're not?
what?
Are there things that we need to be aware of that we're not picking up on? Or I think we're moving along here on the year for the work program and stuff. And
So I had a challenge out there on the website for anybody
Yes,
who
you
had
did.
time. Did anybody else have anything else to add? I got some comments from Rosemary. And so it looked like Rosemary's our winner.
all
A
right.
lot of comments.
Good.
Wow.
So this is,
Ah,
so I'll work on fixing those broken links. And,
Thank you so much. But did you see how I thought it was very good with a ton of information? That was all, it was all just what you said.
Well, one reason for this activity was to try to encourage you to look at the website because it was intended to be a helpful website with lots of important information. So the challenge is still on because I won't get all of these fixed before next year. So Rosemary, you don't need to try to look at any more.
No, I'm done. I clicked on every link.
But we'll leave it open and the rest of you can still have an opportunity to win some goodies and look at the website. And then also if there's recommendations for things, that just could be more helpful or maybe moved in another place because we do want our resources to be utilized and to be helpful to
Right.
people. And as we know, reading code is not fun.
No.
I
So
thought
it's
other
good.
people might have sort of content comment more than I went for, other than my last one. But I thought it was excellent. An important question: are we allowed to eat here? If not, I will set them out there, and you should. We have some homemade baked stuff. Thank you so much.
Oh, you bet.
And you're welcome to grab some. And those of you that have families, do grab for your
I think
kiddos.
maybe do it out
Out
here
there.
after the meeting, after we adjourn.
oh, come on. They would
Otherwise,
love
we
it.
just have to
Crumbs.
stop the meeting and have a snack, So, well, that is a good way to find out. I mean, when you know what's there, you don't see what's missing, and so it always is good to have other eyes.
Right.
Give it a look see.
And you might say, well, I'm getting that link to work, and maybe my laptop was downloading right then and didn't connect or something. So
Yeah.
it was done in the spirit of being helpful, not
Oh, yes.
not to
No, it's
criticize.
exactly what I wanted. That's what I wanted.
Okay, I think we're at conclusion. We really went over some really good stuff, and we definitely have work ahead of us. But it's all helpful, good stuff. So, a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, meeting adjourned.